So I'm on my way to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This is one of my most anticipated movies of the year simply because it is the introduction to Phase 5. The initial reviews from critics haven't been all that good, but some people do think it's a great addition to the MCU. And so I'm going to watch it. I'm going to let you know what I thought about it. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share what you thought of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out right now if you enjoy this video. Click that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you like talking about movies, and it really helps a lot if you do that. And with that said, let's just get started talking about the good. And to me, what I really appreciated about this film was that it was an Ant-Man movie that is important to the MCU. The previous two Ant-Man movies are small in scale. They're just small little heist movies in the San Francisco city and stuff like that, where the final battles are like car chases. They're just in a room in a house. And this is a movie that is important, and it does that by introducing our villain, Kang the Conqueror, who is portrayed perfectly by Jonathan Majors. And what I liked about this villain was that he's not written to be sympathetic, but Kang himself believes that he is doing what, and doing this for the greater cause. He really believes in doing what he is doing. And this movie provides more focus than Phase 4 did. It had the missing piece in Phase 4 that I thought was not present in Phase 4, but this movie had that. And what was missing in Phase 4 was that it wasn't leading up to any particular thing. It was just a series of sequels, spin-offs, TV shows, etc. And this is a film that manages to actually lead up to something, not only by introducing Kang, but also setting up this bigger world in the MCU and introducing our multiverse in an actual movie with our main villain, of course. And there are larger stakes than the first two Ant-Man movies than in this movie, and that's what I thoroughly appreciated about it. The first two Ant-Man movies, like I said, are very small in scale, and here the fate of several worlds are at stake within an Ant-Man movie set into the quantum realm. And, like in the title, Quantumania, the quantum realm is just an interesting place to explore where there are creatures and everything. People have been making comparisons to Star Wars and saying this is kind of like the Star Wars of the MCU, and I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I say that it kind of reminds me of those original Star Wars movies where there's like a bar and some weird creatures all over the place. I would say that benefits the movie because it plays into an element of the world building. And among those lines of the world building, because it's set into the quantum realm, which is really small, it's a weird and wacky place that you just want to explore. It does so much things to make you want to go on these adventures with these characters, and also having a wacky place with where most of the movie actually does take place. And the finale of this movie is more epic, more grander in scale than the first two Ant-Man movies, because the first two Ant-Man movies, like I said, the final battles were just like a car chase in Ant-Man and the Wasp. This one is a full-on battle with giant Ant-Man, like kicking buildings and things like that. I enjoy a lot of what they did with the action in this movie, and the finale is just very epic. The stakes matter. It matters for the fate of where the MCU is headed. And as it is an Ant-Man movie, it contains certain amounts of humor that just add a little bit of levity into the mix. But it's just sprinkled throughout. Not like the first two Ant-Man movies where it's all throughout the movie. It's just sprinkled throughout. That's just enough to make it enjoyable. So to me, overall, this was an enjoyable Ant-Man movie. Maybe the best of the Ant-Man movies to me. From there's unfortunately quite a few problems. So let's move on to the bad. And to me, the big problem with this movie is that it has some serious tonal shifts throughout the runtime of the film. it will go from people getting murdered to the silliest of Ant-Man jokes. And you have to pick one tone to make sure that it's grounded in this one tone that you could either take seriously or it could be a funny, goofy comedy. And it seems to switch around those two so much that it doesn't become all that grounded anymore. Next one here, it feels slightly generic because it is a bunch of big CGI spectacle. It can feel a little bit generic at some points. You can see where things are headed. You've seen these plot lines before, and so it can feel a little bit generic. Third up here is that I think MODOK does not translate at all well into live action. They squished Corey Stoll's face into the MODOK frame from the comics, and it does not work. It looks absolutely ridiculous. His eyes are a bit like too far apart. It just looks so ridiculous. And it's played off as a goofy comedy whenever it shows up. And final one up here is I think Cassie Lang is treated very oddly. They don't have time to give her some sort of character arc because they're focusing in on Kang and Ant-Man and things like that. And so she doesn't necessarily have an arc. They set up something that doesn't necessarily pay off. There are moments that are meant to feel like payoff but don't really work out that well because it wasn't set up. So I thought that was a very odd choice to treat your character like that. But I still really enjoyed this movie. I just think it could have been better. I'll give this one a B. If you're a big fan of the MCU, definitely go check out this movie. If you're not, maybe this one isn't for you. Those are my thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Click that like button, be sure to subscribe. It really does help. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next